She delivered over 600 babies. 27 of them never went home. For 17 years, mothers in rural Alabama trusted her with their most precious moments. She betrayed every single one of them. This is the true story of Martha Ella Williams, the midwife who built an empire on stolen children, and the mothers who spent decades searching for babies they were told had died. Alabama, 1945, where life and death were decided by one woman's greed. Wilcox County, Alabama, 1945. The war had ended, but in the rural corners of the Deep South, life moved at the same slow pace it had for generations. Dirt roads, sharecropper cabins, communities where everyone knew everyone, and trust was built on generations of familiarity. Martha Ella Williams arrived in Wilcox County that summer with impeccable credentials, a trained midwife from Mobile, references from doctors, a gentle manner that put frightened young mothers at ease. She was 43 years old, unmarried, and dedicated, she said, to bringing new life into the world. The county had few doctors. Hospital births cost money that sharecroppers and tenant farmers didn't have. When a woman went into labor, Martha Ella Williams was the one they called. She delivered babies in candlelight, in one-room cabins where entire families waited outside, praying, in farmhouses where the only sounds were a mother's cries and Martha's calm voice guiding her through. Within a year, she had delivered over 50 babies. Within 2 years, she was the most trusted midwife in 3 counties. Mothers would later remember her kindness, the way she held their hands, the way she sang old hymns while they labored, the way she promised, again and again, "Your baby will be just fine. I'll take care of everything." But in the summer of 1947, something changed. Martha Ella Williams discovered that babies weren't just lives to be brought into the world. They were commodities. And in 1947 Alabama, where adoption records were sealed and birth certificates could be flexible, a baby could be worth more than most families earned in a year. Sarah Jenkins was 19 years old when she went into labor on August 14th, 1947, her first child. She was terrified, but Martha Ella's presence calmed her. The midwife had delivered her younger sister just 6 months earlier. Everything had gone perfectly. The labor was long, difficult. Sarah would later remember periods where she lost consciousness, where Martha gave her something. She said it was for the pain that made the room swim and fade. When Sarah woke, it was morning. Martha Ella sat beside her bed, her face grave. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart. Your baby. He didn't make it. Born too early, too small. The Lord took him home before he could draw his first breath." Sarah's screams brought her mother running. But Martha was already wrapping something small in a blanket, already explaining that she'd take care of the burial, that some things were too painful for a mother to see. "It's better this way," Martha said, her voice kind, her eyes dry. "Better you remember him as sleeping, not the other way." Sarah never saw her son's body. She never saw a grave. She was given a death certificate, signed by Martha Ella Williams, certified midwife. Cause of death: premature birth, respiratory failure, but Sarah's breasts still filled with milk. Her body still prepared to feed a child who, Martha said, had never breathed. Something felt wrong. 3 months later, another stillbirth. Martha delivered the baby alone while the father waited outside. Another boy, another burial she would handle personally. 2 months after that, twins. Both girls. Both Martha said, born too weak to survive. By the end of 1948, Martha Ella Williams had delivered 63 babies in Wilcox County. 11 of them were listed as stillborn or died within hours of birth. In a region where infant mortality was tragically common, no one questioned it. Not yet. But mothers talked to each other, in church pews and at general stores, over clotheslines and in cotton fields, and slowly a pattern emerged. The stillbirths only happened when Martha delivered alone, never when family members were present, never when other midwives assisted, and always, Martha insisted on taking the body away herself. For the family's peace of mind, she would say, but where were the graves? Before I continue, if stories of justice delayed but not denied fascinate you, hit subscribe. I uncover one forgotten American tragedy every week, because what these mothers discovered next would expose one of the South's darkest secrets. In the spring of 1952, a young doctor named Thomas Harding arrived in Wilcox County fresh from medical school in Birmingham. He was idealistic, determined to bring modern medicine to rural Alabama, and he noticed something in Martha Ella Williams's records that made his blood run cold. Her infant mortality rate was 18%. The state average, even in poor rural counties, was 6%. Dr. Harding began asking questions. He spoke to Sarah Jenkins, whose stillborn son would have been 5 years old. He spoke to Emma Louise Carter, who had delivered twins that Martha said died hours after birth, twins that Emma never saw, never held, never buried. He spoke to Ida Mae Thompson, whose premature daughter was supposedly too small to survive. Yet Ida's milk had come in strong, suggesting a full-term, healthy baby. He spoke to 17 mothers in total, 17 women who had delivered babies that Martha Ella Williams said had died. 17 women who had never seen their children's bodies. And when Dr. Harding contacted the county clerk to examine death certificates and burial permits, he found something impossible. There were no burial permits. None. Alabama law required a burial permit for every deceased infant filed within 72 hours of death. Martha Ella Williams had reported 17 infant deaths. She had filed 0 burial permits. Where were the babies? Dr. Harding went to the sheriff. The sheriff contacted the Alabama Bureau of Investigation, and on June 3rd, 1952, investigators arrived at Martha Ella Williams's home with a warrant. What they found in her records would lead to one of the largest black market adoption scandals in American history. Ledgers, meticulously kept ledgers documenting payments received, babies delivered, babies disposed of. But the ledgers didn't list burials. They listed addresses: Birmingham, Montgomery, Atlanta, New Orleans. Wealthy families who had paid Martha Ella Williams between $500 and $3,000 per child. Families who believed they were adopting orphans. Families who had no idea these babies had been stolen from mothers who were told their children had died. Martha Ella Williams was arrested on June 4th, 1952. She was charged with 23 counts of kidnapping, 23 counts of falsifying death certificates, 23 counts of conspiracy to commit fraud, operating an illegal adoption ring, 23 babies. 23 mothers told their children had died. 23 families who had paid for babies they believed were legally adopted orphans. The trial began in October 1952. What emerged in testimony was a system so calculated, so methodical, it shocked even hardened prosecutors. Martha Ella Williams had perfected her operation. She targeted poor mothers, women who couldn't afford hospitals, women who were unmarried and ashamed, women who were young and frightened and would trust an authority figure. During difficult labors, she would sedate them, sometimes for hours. While they were unconscious, she would deliver healthy babies and immediately take them away. When the mothers woke, she would present them with stillborn infants, babies who actually had died in childbirth from other deliveries, babies she kept frozen for exactly this purpose. The mothers would grieve for children who weren't theirs, while their actual children were sold to wealthy couples desperate for babies, couples who paid cash and asked no questions. The trial lasted 6 weeks. Martha Ella Williams showed no remorse. When asked why she had done it, her answer was chilling. Those babies went to good homes, better homes than those women could have provided. I gave those children better lives. She was convicted on 19 counts. 4 cases couldn't be proven due to missing records. She was sentenced to 15 years in prison. She served 8. But the story doesn't end there. In 1992, 40 years after the trial, a woman named Jennifer Matthews saw her adopted birth certificate for the first time. The handwriting looked odd. The signatures seemed forged, and her birth date didn't match her baby footprints. She hired a private investigator. What they discovered led to the reopening of the Martha Ella Williams case. DNA testing revealed that at least 12 stolen babies were still alive, raised by adoptive families who had no idea their adoptions were illegal. Sarah Jenkins, the first victim in 1947, was contacted in 1994. Her stillborn son was alive. He was 47 years old, living in Atlanta, with children of his own. They met on a spring morning in Birmingham. Sarah held her son for the first time since the day he was born, and she was told he had died between 1945 and 1962. Martha Ella Williams delivered approximately 600 babies in rural Alabama. Investigators believe at least 127 of them were stolen and sold. Only 23 were ever legally proven. Only 19 were ever found. Martha Ella Williams died in 1998 at age 96. She never apologized. She never revealed where all the babies went. And somewhere in America today, there are children, now in their 70s and 80s, who don't know their mothers spent their entire lives searching for them, don't know that their mothers were told they died, don't know that they were stolen, not adopted, don't know the truth. If this story enraged you, if you believe these histories need to be told, subscribe. Because American history is full of sins that powerful people tried to bury. And I'm digging them all up. In 2015, the state of Alabama erected a small memorial in Wilcox County. It doesn't name Martha Ella Williams. It simply reads, "In memory of the mothers who were told their babies died, and the children who never knew they were loved." The stolen babies of Alabama remind us that evil doesn't always wear a monster's face. Sometimes it wears a midwife's gentle smile. And sometimes the greatest crimes are committed by those we trust the most. Next week, the Mississippi school that performed experiments on students. It was legal. It was funded by your government. And some of the victims are still alive. Subscribe, because these stories won't tell themselves.